Welcome one and all to the inaugural episode of Escape from Walt Disney. I am your host, Tony Goldmark. You might remember me from such YouTube shows as Some Jerk with a Camera, State of the Parks, and One Movie Later, and now I'm getting into the podcasting game for the very first time ever. This is the first podcast I've ever hosted. Joining us are my guests for this very first inaugural episode. Across from me, from such YouTube shows as Dave Does Disney, Blitzstravaganza, and Armchair Imagineering, as well as several appearances in my videos, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Ganssle.
Hello, it is me. You may know me as Doggins, but you also probably just don't know me unless you just follow all of our work obsessively.
To my immediate left is his brother. You've seen him in several of our videos, primarily playing a character he invented named Artie, the world's dumbest movie executive.
Where's the whiskey?
Maybe he'll show up in this podcast at some point. Who knows? Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Nicholas Bogroff Ganssle.
If God loves you, Artie will not show up in this podcast, okay?
Well, we don't know what we're watching yet. So,
we don't.
So
You're right. I take it back. I don't want to make any... Okay, that's fair.
Whatever we watch may summon Artie.
So you may notice I did not have a show of my own. I just leech off everyone else's shows. I'm like that character from Hoodwinked who isn't telling the story, but just weaves through all of them.
A reference we all remember.
Yes.
Remember Hoodwinked, guys? Wasn't that movie great?
Nick is the real-life version of that original character you make up to stick into your favorite TV show, who's just always there.
By the way, if you're looking for examples of such leechings, the character Artie appeared in a couple of Some Jerk episodes, including the one on Harry Potter, where he had a conversation with J.K. Rowling, played by our other good friend, Erica Haynes. And also, he was in the Haunted Mansion movie review, part one of that.
Snorting Altoids and playing with Ruples.
To my immediate right, you might remember her from some of my videos as well. Sometimes she does, in fact, make her own videos. She's one of the biggest Star Wars fans I know. So if we get a Star Wars title, that'll certainly be interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Morgan Funder.
Woo! Yay!
Yeah, thank you. You can usually find me either on Idiot's Lantern on YouTube, where I have some vlogs, or on Twitter arguing with idiots about Star Wars.
You could have just left that idiots, and I'd be like, yeah, nope, that tracks. That's par for the course.
That's what most of us are doing on Twitter.
Yeah, I argue with idiots about Star Wars, but I repeat myself. So what are we doing here today? Well, today just happens to be November 12th, 2019, as we record this.
The 64th anniversary of the Hill Valley Lightning Storm.
You're exactly right! Yay! But that's a different studio. Today also just happens to be the launch date for Disney Plus, the Disney streaming service, their answer to Netflix and Hulu, although apparently they also own Hulu now.
Yeah,
so.
they like bought like a controlling interest in Hulu.
Yeah.
And
they own like
and
60, 70%.
The worst part of Hulu. Well, no, the worst part of Hulu is the commercials.
And they're offering like bundles now where you can get Disney Plus and Hulu and
Okay,
ESPN.
let me explain the stupidity of the bundle they're offering, okay? It would get you Hulu with commercials, Disney Plus, and ESPN. It is the same price as getting Hulu with commercials and Disney Plus. Literally, they're just saying, we'll give you ESPN for free. Also, we're slightly neutering Hulu and ESPN.
Oh, man.
ESPN is $4.99 a month. So you're saving $5, sort of.
I also got to give a shout out to a fellow by the name of Matt Bilodeau, who gave us the name of this podcast, Escape from Walt Disney, because we were debating between several different titles. I, at first, was firmly of the opinion that we should title this podcast Disney Minus. A couple of people thought, well, that sounds a little too inherently negative. We went back and forth on it. One potential title we thought of was Once Upon a Stream, but then it turned out that was taken. Some other podcast covering Disney Plus is calling themselves Once Upon a Stream.
Bastards.
I'm sure they're lovely people.
I'm sure they are.
I didn't say that. Just said they don't have legally married parents.
Of course. So I opened it up to my Twitter followers, like I always do when I can't make a decision, and a couple of them started suggesting alternate titles, and I did a couple of polls, and I did a couple of runoff polls, and ultimately, Escape from Walt Disney was the title that more people liked by kind of a runaway margin, and it was suggested to us by Matt Bilodeau, who goes by @MovieMatt2 on Twitter, so thank you very much for that, Matt.
And apparently he also was beaten to the punch, because what's with @MovieMatt1?
Or just @MovieMatt. I mean,
wow, that's
there
true.
were
We feel
clearly
your
two
pain,
people.
Matt. We feel it.
So what is the gimmick in particular behind this show? Obviously, we're covering Disney Plus, but Here's the thing about Disney. Disney has a vast library that contains at least about 100 or so just amazing movies. Just absolute classics of cinema. Many of them are animated, some live action really good ones as well, but just 100 or so really classic films and thousands of titles of just garbage. And Disney Plus contains all of it. It's got all the really good stuff. It's got most of the really bad stuff, too.
And remember that whole period of time where Disney Channel really pushed the we're gonna make a movie every month?
Yeah.
Guess how many of those are on Disney
Pretty
Plus?
much all of them.
All of them.
I remember a month or so ago, there was this big, long Twitter thread that went viral where Disney Plus just announced every last title they were going to offer on launch date. And it was all these ridiculous, like, Troy McClure titles.
But what's great is they knew that for everyone, there would be one obscure film they grew up with a VHS copy of that they're like, oh my god, did you see this is going to be on Disney Plus?
There was one kid out there, the only VHS he owned was Candle Shoe, and he was so excited.
I didn't just imagine this. Oh
I
my
can
god.
throw away my VCR.
I didn't hallucinate.
Finally.
This is amazing. So here's what we're going to do on this show. Every week, we're going to choose one of these Disney Plus titles completely at random. Literally, we've got an online randomizer. We have loaded the titles of all of these movies into the randomizer, and every time we click the pick a random item option, it is gonna beep, beep, boop for a few seconds, and then it will give us the topic. And we are covering that movie and or that TV show as our topic, no matter what it is. We have to go with the first choice. Now, if it's a TV show, we will also go to Google's random number generator and pick a random episode. We are not going to binge watch an entire TV series. However, there's also several series of shorts on the Disney Plus app. If it chooses a series of shorts, we will probably binge watch at least a season of the shorts, because they're just shorts. We can get through that.
But no matter what, whatever the pick a random item generator says, we go with. Because Rando the Itemnator does no wrong!
It's the Amazing Rando.
The Amazing Rando!
Eastman, he came from the East to do battle with the Amazing Rando!
We stand
Soon
by
on
that.
Disney Plus.
Shall we get straight into it? Shall we pick our first topic? As we record this, we have no idea what the topic is going to be. You know, because it's in the title of the episode.
I'm pulling for Brink.
Dave, are we ready?
I am ready. I am about to click the button that says pick a random item.
Let's do it.
Come on, Rando. Give me Brink. Give me Brink. Give me
Here
Brink.
we go.
Beep, boop, beep, 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 boop, beep, 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 beep.
And the winner is Smart House 1999.
Smart House.
Okay, Smart House. Was that a movie or
Okay.
TV show?
I think it was a TV movie.
That sounds like a Disney Channel movie. It rings a bell.
I remember seeing ads for it on the Disney Channel, so I think
I remember seeing
it's
it
about,
listed last night.
It was about a house that had a computer brain, and that computerized personality takes over.
So it was a dire warning for the future of home
Kind
media.
of, yeah. It's
Yeah,
sort
I
of
mean,
We
like
have
this
smart
is-
houses now.
she
so,
makes
like,
Wow.
the smart house becomes the mother of the family,
Wow, this
and then
is-
takes it way too far.
This is Kubrickian. Plot summary. A computerized smart house becomes an overly possessive virtual mother.
Yeah,
From 1999.
From 1999.
Yeah,
So this
that
movie was
reminds-
prescient.
Is that Katey Sagal?
Directed by LeVar Burton.
Directed by
Directed
LeVar
by
Burton.
LeVar Burton. Can't be easy to look at a camera through that visor. It's an hour, 21 minutes long, so this shouldn't be too painful, hopefully. Let's do it. Let us watch Smart House here on Escape from Walt Disney. Okay, so we just saw the Disney Channel original movie Smart House, first aired June 26, 1999. Well, that was technically 82 minutes long, wasn't it?
I think it was more like 81 and a half.
Yeah, 81 and a half. Was that even technically a movie?
It was technically a moving picture.
It was a series of rapidly projected, or streamed rather, still images meant to create the illusion of motion. It was technically over 80 minutes long.
It was padding the movie.
It had so much padding in it. See, I had never seen this movie, but I'm familiar enough with just general Disney late 90s nostalgia culture that I know it was fondly remembered by some people. they only remember maybe 1 or 2 scenes from this. This is not a good movie. This is a very horribly structured attempt at a movie with a couple of standout scenes that should have been expanded to the whole movie, but they're not, so it's just another bit of random meandering on its way to technically feature length.
Well,
We're pretty sure that it must have been a failed TV pilot that got stretched out into feature length when they started creating these made-for-TV movies that they needed to knock out really quickly on a minimal budget.
It definitely had that feel to it. It felt like they were specifically trying to take everything potentially interesting about this premise and just suck it out like a vacuum, or like the absorbing floors in this movie.
Yeah.
Just so they could still have a series after this where they could continue getting into shenanigans with the Smart House, because God, this movie just goes nowhere. In the last 15 minutes, it finally introduces the premise, basically, of why this is supposed to be an interesting movie that anyone would want to watch.
Yeah.
And until then, it's just boring bullshit.
the character who takes up most of the poster visually doesn't show up till the last 15 minutes of the movie.
They had maybe a day to work with Katey Sagal, who's their one big name in this movie.
But she's not listed on the details on the Disney Plus screen.
Which she shouldn't be, because she's barely in it.
Her voice is in it a lot.
She got the "and" credit, and Katey Sagal.
Which is just criminal because she is the most memorable actor in the entire movie.
This very much has the feel of being the kind of bullshit work she had to take in between Married with Children and Futurama. And she's given it her all. She is really committing to this, arch caricature of robot gone mad by way of 50s housewife, which is a great idea in theory, but they do nothing with it.
When she's playing nice at the beginning, I was kind of like, okay, I could see that. I guess that's Katey Sagal. It wasn't until she started going crazy that I went, oh, there's Leela. I can fully hear the Leela in her voice. The way she started condescending to them, it's like, oh, that's absolutely Leela talking to Frank.
I'm pretty sure they cast her, one, because she was available for a day of green screen shooting, which looks like all they had was her.
She's conspicuously never in the frame with any of the rest of the cast unless it's a green screen.
You remember in season 6 of Community when they had that episode where Chang got really big on a commercial and they had 30 seconds of green screen footage that they tried to stretch out to a movie? That's what this was.
Yes! Oh my God, that is this movie to a T. So do we want to actually try to break down the plot of this piece of shit?
I think so.
Are we in spoiler territory yet, or are we starting with I can't even say that without laughing.
The poster is a spoiler.
This is one of those movies where it really doesn't matter.
Here's the thing. We never saw this when it was new because we didn't get cable when we were kids.
Right.
We saw all the made-for-ABC Wonderful World of Disney movies, but we didn't see the made-for-Disney Channel movies.
This is even lower on the rung than those.
I don't remember actually seeing this movie, but thing was, when Disney Channel had a new made-for-TV movie coming out, it was carpeted all over their programming. So I remembered very much hearing that pop song. They would play that all over everything.
Wait, what's on? The one they play at the party?
They play it in the beginning credits, they play it at the party, and they play it at the end credits.
Okay.
This movie directly reminded me that Bewitched was a thing. Not the sitcom, the knockoff Spice Girl girl band that was assembled for the Disney Channel.
Was that the music video that was playing in the daughter's room?
That was the music video playing.
Okay.
My guess was going to be Nobody's Angel, because that's the only one I could think of that no one had heard of.
That was the blast of unexpected nostalgia where you have completely forgotten something existed, but you remember all of the words, like say you will, say you won't, say you'll do.
Speaking of pop music, how about the scene where the kid invites his friends to the Smart House?
I'm sorry, the Smart House invites his friends to the Smart House.
Right, the Smart House.
Let's be accurate.
Yeah, the Smart House fucking invades the kid's email. By the way, I am now fully convinced the Smart House was responsible for the Hillary Clinton email scandal. Because this thing has access to all of the kids' emails.
And yet not his instant messenger somehow.
No.
Yeah.
It's
somehow
just arbitrary.
She's Ultron, basically. But really lame Ultron.
Finish your original point.
Right.
Even lamer than normal.
My original point about pop music. There's the scene where the Smart House fucking invites the kids' friends, and then the Smart House starts like this boy band pop music video on
yeah.
the wall, and the kids all start doing choreography.
Not the kids. The three guys. Three 13-year-old guys
boys
hanging out alone, watching a music video and doing the choreography to a boy band. Hey guys,
that
remember when you were 13 and you were so fucking confident in your masculinity and sexuality that you're like, I'm gonna listen to Backstreet Boys? I can totally... No one did that! It was the 90s! We were repressed!
We wanted the Backstreet Boys dead. I was there.
Yes!
I was 12 in 1999. I know for a fact that 13-year-old boys were not dancing along with the boy band.
Thank you!
At least not... Okay. I don't want to make broad generalizations.
No, of course.
Certainly some 13-year-old boys probably enjoyed them.
They did not enjoy them without fear of reclamation.
Yes.
Without fear of being mocked for liking boy
The
bands.
archetypical 13-year-old boy who was concerned with being cool, as this boy is presented as being.
Now, to be fair,
Let
he is also the
alone learning
matriarch
the
of his family.
Yeah, that's the
that's
other
true.
weird thing. He's not really concerned with being cool because he's concerned with keeping his family together by essentially being the mom, and he's such a stick in the mud.
He doesn't want his dead mother replaced.
Right.
He tries to basically take on all the motherly duties of the family to prove that they don't need a mom. That is his one defining character trait. So in all the other scenes of the movie that are just padding to stretch this thing out into a movie, all of his other traits are just typical 13-year-old boy traits, like wanting the popular girl to talk to him, which is a desire we don't realize he has until she talks to him.
Which, by the way, he's a hypocrite because he doesn't want his dad to go out on dates with women, but he's fine. Yeah, I can get
The
laid.
gender politics of this movie are so messed up.
They're chaotic.
They really are.
You can listen in real time as I go step by step through it to try and figure out what it's trying to say about family dynamics and gender.
It's not trying to say jack shit.
Well, the 13-year-old boy, he cooks, he prepares lunches for his family, he does typical mom stuff that way. That's all to convince his dad that they don't need a mom, but there's more to that role than what mothers do in a physical sense.
Right. He clearly doesn't care about emotionally nurturing his sister.
Dad wants to date again, and he has been actively pursuing women, and his son has been sort of scuttling him with like, no, we don't need a mom. And then he works extra hard at the mother stuff to try and prove it. And the big unspoken thing is, kid, there's certain things that a lady could provide for your dad that if the lady was agreeable, I don't think you can do without getting your father arrested.
He just wants to fuck his own dad.
God, now I feel unclean. I need to go wash off.
The father, by the way, looks like an if they mated between Joe Piscopo and Dave Coulier.
If you're having trouble forming a mental image, he was the rapist from Dollhouse. You know, the guy who was raping Sierra? That's the actor.
Nick, you're the only one who remembers Dollhouse.
Dollhouse was amazing. It's an underrated show. Please watch Dollhouse.
So let's actually talk about what sort of kind of happened. It's a stretch to say anything happens in this movie.
What occurred, maybe?
I counted at least 4 failed inciting incidents.
So the basic concept is this woman has created this smart house, which basically acts like HAL 9000 and eventually goes crazy like HAL 9000. They even do a reference where she says, I'm sorry, Nick, I just can't do that.
But if HAL 9000 was a repressed 1950s housewife who finally buckles under the pressure of needing to do everything for her family.
Which, by the way, great concept.
Right?
I want to see that movie with an actual team of people making it.
Yeah,
And
well,
not
if they had embraced that aspect of it and turned it into sort of a deconstruction of that particular image of motherhood,
Like
where the
Resident
mother
Evil style?
you are failing in your duty as a mother if your family's lives are not perfect.
Right.
Even in the 50s, that was really fucked up. And it made
Exactly.
lots of women's lives miserable and led to a lot of depression. There's a reason that the feminist revolution started in the 60s when the hippies were like, hey, wait a minute, we'd rather do stuff with our
Literally
lives.
anything
Literally
else.
anything besides.
This movie squandered such a dynamite opportunity to be about something.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And
That's about as pointedly as you can say that. Yes.
Lord.
If this movie was going to be about anything at all, it should have been that. That would actually be a story with some meat on its bones.
If that was the premise, I think it should have been a robot made more than a smart house.
No,
Six of
because
one, half a dozen of the other, you know?
just rewriting it in my mind, God, if someone was given the thankless job of remaking Smart House.
Well, okay.
This should
here's
be
the thing.
remade.
Yes.
Smart House
You
2019.
could actually improve upon this.
Alan Horn, I know you're listening. Stop remaking the animated films and just make better versions of all these DComs that have
Yes.
interesting premises, but were just, whether it was under the demands of them having to be a TV movie or whether it was just the fact that you only wanted to pay for a first draft of the script, you have the potential to make these properties right.
Start the petition going, remake Smart House.
So Morgan, I want to hear your take, because it sounds like you have a take.
Okay. My take would be the Smart House would start out the way it does in the movie. It would be like doing all of this stuff for you, but it wouldn't be very emotionally present or anything like that. I would have it be that the family keeps making more and more demands of it. And as they do, the house gets more and more human because it's actively trying to be more and more present for them until I finally physically manifest to be, finally, I can be everything you need me to be. Here I am right in front of you. And then when that gesture is rejected, that would be when the house goes crazy because it's sort of the 1950s housewife breakdown. I have done everything for you and it is never enough.
I take it back, you're right. That's better than the robot maid.
So kind of Mr. Meeseeks from Rick and Morty.
I was actually thinking the Keep Summer Safe episode.
Well, yeah, technology, we keep demanding more and more of it, and then when something we have breaks, we hold it against the phone. Like, my web page that is sending a signal up to space and bouncing it back, it's loading a couple seconds slower than it was earlier.
Monster.
So why is it doing this to me?
It would also be a sort of interpretation of what happened with the Amazon smart homes that were recording conversations, randomly emailing them to people.
Man, yeah.
Think of, what if it wasn't a monster movie? What if it wasn't, I'm being physically attacked by the house? What if it was, I'm going to destroy your life? And actually, now that we're saying this, okay, it's not quite the same premise, but have you seen the trailers for, I think it's called Jexy? It's the movie. the movie with the guy from Workaholics.
The guy from Workaholics,
And it's basically, it's like her, like there's a sentient smartphone, but it's sort of like a Fatal Attraction thing where they kind of falls in love with him and then starts like ruining his life, I think.
That was in and out of theaters so fast.
I saw a couple TV spots for it on
me
YouTube.
too. It looked interesting, but I have no idea if
But
it was
like,
any
what
good.
if it was like that? So like the trailer, the clip that I saw in all the trailers was the phone just started sending his nudes to people randomly.
Right.
Think about the ways that technology, if it became sentient, could just wreck your life.
Sure.
Here's my social security number. I'm gonna email my boss, tell him to go fuck himself. Okay, true story, and this is from years ago, not as far back as 99, but back in like 2013, back when GPSs weren't phones, when they were like a physical thing you bought and put in your car, I was at a friend's house. She was talking about she wanted donuts. I'm like, I'll go get you donuts. So I put in Dunkin' Donuts. It's Connecticut. I figure, throw a rock, you hit a Dunkin' Donuts, right? And it said, oh, there's one a mile and a half away. And she lived right on the edge of like town and then like woods. So I'm driving into the woods following the GPS, takes me down a right turn, takes me down a left turn, brings me to a gravel parking lot and says, you've arrived. And I'm sitting there at 10 o'clock at night, pitch black in the middle of nowhere in a gravel parking lot going, this fucker's trying to murder me. Like, imagine what it could do if it was actually sentient and trying to murder you.
Yeah.
Take a left into the lake. Yeah, that's right, Michael. Go into the goddamn lake. That's
Oh
what
God!
the
What if one
GPS
of the,
told you to do?
What if the teenager like gets in a fight with a friend or something, or gets dumped or something, and he's like, "I wish I was dead."
Oh, and then the house tries
takes
to
it literally.
Yeah. Oh my God, this movie. Lamest bully comeuppance ever.
Oh my God.
Lamest
That
bully.
was-
Of course, there's a bully at school. He's got the frosted hair, like they all have.
This is worse than the deleted scene from The Princess Diaries where Mandy Moore's character got outed as not really being her friend. This is shittier than that.
Of course, you've seen the deleted
again,
scenes on
With
the Princess
commentary, motherfucker, with commentary.
Please call him Gary.
You're that big a Gary Marshall fanboy.
Gary Marshall.
Yes.
So we wanted to have this scene.
That might
where
come
there'd
up.
be
That's
a
on
New
Disney
York
Plus,
accent.
too.
Where are we gonna find a guy with a New York accent? So I stepped in, but they realized it was like they were on a date, and that makes sure look shitty because she treats him badly later.
I don't
So we
think he
cut
said
the
the word
scene, and
shitty
I
on the
sacrificed.
DVD.
Okay,
Anyway.
I haven't seen it in a few years.
So we were talking about Smart House.
No, we weren't. When the fuck were we talking about Smart House?
When the fuck was anyone talking about Smart House?
I will say the bully arc, if we can call it that, throughout the movie.
We're using quotes.
Yeah.
We're using everything in quotes for this stupid movie.
The bully thread has all the hallmarks of being the very last thing added to the script to stretch it out.
So the bully's giving him trouble at school. The dad at one point tells the kid, oh, you got to stand up for yourself when it comes to bullies. We don't even see the scene, by the way, where the bully beats him up. He just comes home with a bruise on his face.
To be fair, it's a hard cut to the bruise, so it's supposed to be a joke.
I suppose so. Okay, fine.
But it's a failed joke.
But then he went through the rest of the school day with a black eye, and none of his teachers were like, maybe you should go to the nurse.
It's a Disney Channel movie. That didn't exist.
It's okay, I'm my own mom. I took care of it.
So the smart house accesses his emails, invites all his goddamn friends to this impromptu party, and the bully shows up because the smart house specifically invited the bully, and it's setting it up as this like grand comeuppance. Like,
why did he even have the bully's email?
I don't know. Maybe it's one of those schools where they just give all the other kids
in
emails.
99?
There was probably some class project where they all had to have email addresses.
Stop rewriting Smart House. So what happens to the bully? He gets a spotlight shown on him, and then the Smart House starts taunting him and going, don't you want attention? And then this horrible holographic skull comes out and just kind of follows him around for a bit. And then the bully just leaves.
Oh, no.
Well,
the arm comes out and chases him out. Doesn't even push him. It, like, chases him out.
There are these big Inspector Gadget robot arms in this movie that come out of the house.
Which the CGI on those is worse than the CGI on the holographic
Okay,
skull.
no. To put it in context, what year did The Incredibles come out?
2004.
Okay, so 5 years later, the machine from The Incredibles...
The Omnidroid,
it was those arms.
Right.
But in The Incredibles, they look lifelike.
Yeah, it was really awkward in the party scene, especially because they had so many extras who clearly didn't know what they were supposed to be looking at.
The robot arms looked like something from a 90s Stephen King miniseries.
Was the part when the spotlight's on the kid also the part where the house starts playing the old cartoon with the chicken?
Yes.
Was that part of that?
Yes,
Okay,
it was.
so according to IMDb... that is a 1946 cartoon called Sudden Fried Chicken, which was released by Paramount.
What? Disney has their own library?
Licensed an obscure cartoon from Paramount.
I bet you it's in the public domain.
But they also license their own clips. Like, there's one scene where the little girl is watching footage of Mickey Mouse conducting an orchestra at the Hollywood Bowl as fireworks go
usually
off.
Was the little
Disney...
girl's thing supposed to be that she was into classical music? Because
I think it was just supposed to be very extra. It's like, it woke me up with classical music.
By the way, Katey Sagal is the only person in this movie who can act. Everyone else is terrible community theater grade.
She can emote more by just sort of raising an eyebrow slightly than the whole rest of the cast in the scenes where they're supposed to be really upset and yelling.
It's sort of like in the last season of Burn Notice when Michael Weston gets in an argument with an actual actor and you can see which one of them is the actor.
The main little kid, I'm pretty sure, was only cast because LeVar Burton thought he looked a little like a young Will Wheaton.
Yeah, he reminded him of the good days.
Will Wheaton got a lot of crap on that show, but he could act. He could give a natural sounding line reading, which this kid can't really. And his sister is even worse. A surefire way to tell a movie about children written by adults who don't really know any children that well. Basically, the first thing either of these child characters do is make sure we know how invested they are in the love life of the adults
or
around
lack
them.
thereof.
Or lack thereof, yeah.
No, the boy is really interested in his dad's business. Did you nail down the Kowalski account or whatever he freaking said? We don't even really find out what the dad does. It has something to do with sports memorabilia.
At one point, he like sells bats and gloves.
Yeah,
and it's some kind of shipping. He ships off products somewhere.
Here's the real egregious crime of this movie. The even vaguely interesting stuff doesn't happen until the last 15 minutes. Everyone who remembers this movie fondly is only remembering the last 15 minutes.
I think the two reasons people remember this fondly, well, okay, 3 reasons. One of them is just that nostalgia is a hell of a drug.
Of course.
Second reason is the last 15 minutes. Third reason is that on a premise level, it is kind of ahead of its time. The premise of the smart house going crazy, I'm sure...
Well, it was still 30 years after 2001: A Space Odyssey, so it wasn't that far ahead of its
but it was
time.
still decades before actual smart
Well, it was also the Terminator age, so having a hyper-advanced computer who doesn't at some point go crazy and try and...
Oh, the lady inventor's assistant who wears the Elton John glasses for some reason, his name is Miles,
Yeah,
which I am choosing to believe is a reference to Miles else dissect.
He clearly wasn't her husband because she's dating.
No, I think that's just her assistant.
He was just a wormy guy. He seemed into her, but...
Yeah, but he didn't do anything.
He even got criticized for not doing anything.
We
Really
said he
curious.
looks and acts like she picked up some random guy at a bar and he just never left.
And to be fair, we were not listening closely during this opening scene.
He looked like an even wormier young Nicolas Cage.
May I please voice my personal biggest betrayal that I felt during the course of this film?
You have the floor.
Thank you. When they first move into the smart house, there is a scene that lasts roughly 9 goddamn years of them exploring every single facet of the smart house.
Right.
And I kept telling myself, this scene is awful, but it's necessary because these are all the ways it's going to malfunction in the last act. Clearly, they are setting up every different power it has that can go wrong.
Nope.
It fucking lied to me. They did not do that. Yeah, I mean, 1 or 2 of them. Oh, suddenly I wanted a milkshake and it shot oranges for some reason.
Okay,
so much of this movie feels like it's setting up stuff that never pays off.
So yeah, that was one of the potential inciting incidents I saw. The orange is going crazy. That's going to be the start of the house starting to malfunction. This is when the house starts to go crazy. But it absolutely wasn't.
Oh my god, do you know what happened? They finished a draft of the script and went, well shit, the house doesn't go crazy till the last 10 minutes. How can we make it look like the house is kind of teetering on the edge the whole time? Write down 4 ideas for things that can go wrong, and then put them on darts and we'll just throw them at the script.
Okay.
Page 35,
And
that's
the
where
thing
that
is,
happened.
that was actually one of the more complicated things they had to do in the production, because they had the actors legitimately dodging oranges that were getting chucked at them from off screen. They did that. There is no way that was a simple thing to stage and execute to absolutely no effect. It turns out that the house is more frightening when it's just malfunctioning than when it's actively trying to ruin your life.
Now, during that scene, the kid at one point yells, "It's the Attack of the Killer Oranges," which is a fun pop culture reference to Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Right.
I did not buy that it was a reference that kid would make.
There were a lot of weird pop culture references like that.
I actually want to break down the interesting relationship this movie has with pop culture, because there are a couple of Disney pieces of pop culture that come up. Like we said, we see Mickey Mouse conducting the 1812 Overture at the Hollywood Bowl. We see Bewitched was the name of that band.
Yes.
Later on, the girl is trying to watch a cartoon called Dragon Friend, which apparently did air on Disney Channel, and apparently stars Tony Jay as the voice of the dragon.
Wait a minute, I think we saw that show.
We have seen so many goddamn cheap-looking cartoons with dragons in them.
You're talking about Dragon Friend, not Dragon Tales.
It's not Dragon Tales.
No.
It's something called Dragon Friend, which apparently, according to IMDb, won the Create Story Magic contest on the Disney Channel, whatever that means.
Then there's a scene towards the end when Katey Sagal is going full Ultron where she shows them Nazi propaganda. Like, she shows them clips of, like, fucking Triumph of the Will as
And
if
a
to
nuclear
say,
bomb going off.
Yeah, and a nuclear.
She was
It's
like,
like,
"You're never
why
leaving
would
the
you
house."
ever leave the house? It's so dangerous out there.
Like,
What
it's
the fuck?
1999. What have you got to worry about?
Nazis won't be a problem for 20 more years!
9/11 isn't going to be another 2 years. It's the 90s. You've got nothing to worry about.
Oh my god, Pat could have predicted 9/11 and she did nothing.
She's
He
a
could have
monster.
stopped it.
Her name's Pat, by the way, is the name of the... It's an acronym.
Isn't
for
that the
something.
plot
Who
of the
cares?
Looming Tower? Pat had the intel.
A few other real pop culture things. The dad references Big Brother at one point. The dad is woken up with farm animals and he says, "What's with this Green Acres stuff?" So, couple real pop culture references. Then at one point they're playing a video game that looks like an off-brand Star Fox, but sure, they just didn't want to license a real video game. During the party, the house puts a channel on.
MPC?
MPC, the music video
Party Channel.
Didn't the Disney Company buy MTV at one point?
No, that's
I
Viacom.
don't think Disney ever owned
Th-
it.
Someone
That's
owns
one of the
MTV.
few things they haven't bought.
In the second potential inciting incident, where the kid is programming the house with 50s sitcom mom information. So the sitcoms listed are all pastiches of real 50s and 60s sitcoms refocused on the mother. So instead of Father Knows Best, it's Mama Knows Best.
Mama Knows Best.
Instead of My Three Sons, there was My Three Moms.
Three
Which
Moms.
I'm curious to see what that show was about.
But all we see is the title card. That's all. You know, so much of this movie felt like just completely wasting time just to technically get this to 81 minutes. For example, in the early scene, we find this kid really wants to win the Smart House. They push us into the deep end right away with this movie, like, yeah, the Smart House exists.
Like with all 1999 TV movies where we see a person on the internet looks like a Carmen Sandiego game from 1996.
Yes, of course it does. And the kid's putting in a bunch of entries, cheating in this contest, basically.
Or they just had really lax rules on this contest where you could win a goddamn house.
Or this town just has no people in it.
They were like, oh, 1 million entries have been submitted. He goes, yeah, 250,000 of those should be mine.
We don't find out, by the way, the kid has any computer skills. They even say,
Right.
you know,
Even
we don't
though
need
that
computer skills to
Even though
operate
that
the
would've
Smart
been a
House, do
good,
they?
Because
I
then
hate that I'm rewriting Smart House in my head, but that would have been where you establish that he can write code because he wrote a bot that submits 3 entries per second.
And then he could have tried to go one-on-one with the house and reprogramming it in the third act.
But
Yeah.
that would have been interesting,
Well-
Nick, and that's not what this was going for.
I mean, again, he did a little bit of reprogramming when he was showing her the sitcom moms, which is information she should have already
Okay,
had.
that's reprogramming in the same way parenting is sitting your kid down in front of the TV, okay?
Okay, see, at that moment when he's showing the computer the sitcoms, I thought that was going to be the moment where she turned into a person.
Same here.
Like he was weird sciencing the thing, but no,
That's
that
exactly what
doesn't
I thought.
happen for another
That's when she decides
40
to
minutes
throw a
after
party.
that. So the kid's submitting all these entries. The people who are running the contest are like, okay, we're going to announce the winner at 10 p.m. so we can have it in the morning paper, and we'll give the winning family a call. But of course, the kid falls asleep with the internet on, and it's 99, so you can't have phone and internet at the same time. So they never get the call until the next morning. So they first learn they've won the contest by reading the paper. What was the point of any of that?
No, let's be clear. Not by them reading the paper, by his high school friends reading the paper and going,
dude,
dude,
hey, congratulations!
Not only is your name printed in the paper without your consent, but your new address where you're going to live is now public information.
Yeah,
in the
they
local
just
paper.
doxed these people.
And they made it even weirder. They hold a press conference in front of the house, then they have the scene exploring the house, and then the dad goes, I guess we can live here. So you did a press conference before you knew for sure these people were getting the house?
I guess the alternative would have been for them to sell it?
Pick another name, try again.
Yeah, that's the other thing I didn't buy. I feel like a real contest, if you can't get through to the first winner, they're just like,
Yeah, you just
okay,
pick
go to
another.
the next name.
What
Like-
was even the point of them missing the call? It didn't lead to anything. It's just,
No, it
it-
was
it
just
padded.
padding.
We're gonna
Was
wait
it-
so we can hit the morning papers, but it's okay to wait till the next morning to call them.
No,
they
you know-
absolutely would have gone to the next person on the list.
You know what I guarantee it was? It was some pretentious screenwriter going, I'm gonna set up the theme of technology failing us.
the
Because
old-fashioned
the alarm-
newspaper got the news out
They
faster
do-
than the telephone.
They do kind of set up some of the themes as a result of this, because as they're leaving the house in the morning, the phone call actually goes through, but they're on their way out to school, and the dad's just like, leave it. The machine will get it. It's like, yes, the machine will get it.
I wonder if that was possibly in the failed pilot that was clearly the basis that this script was built around.
I don't know.
That
It
maybe the pilot might have actually been good and been about something.
It does feel like a pilot because at the end of this, they're still living in the smart house.
That's what
Yeah.
when we were first watching.
Even though
we
she
hit that
locked them
point.
in and was trying
Yeah.
to.
She was trying to kill them, essentially.
Because
She's
Morgan,
good
you kept
now.
saying it feels like they're just padding us. Oh my God, this is a pilot. It's a pilot about them winning the house, and then all the stuff that are going crazy was like, well, we need more than this. But then
Yeah.
at the end, they're still living in the house, and you're like, no, I'm pretty sure in the pilot she was gonna go crazy. They'd reprogram her, and it would keep going. And I'm like, fuck, I think you're right. I think that was the pilot.
I
How
think
is
that
that
was
a
it.
functional pilot?
They're still living in the smart house, and they've just reprogrammed her to not be crazy?
But
They
she's
made her
still-
feel bad.
They made her
because
feel bad, so she shut herself off.
She tries to be controlling. She's like, only I can take care of you. But he talks her out of being like, my dad and your inventor, they were protecting us and sheltering us. They were comforting us. That's something you can't do.
That gives it way more credit. It was they were physically touching us.
Yeah. To which Morgan actually said, what do you mean you can't shelter us? You're a house.
And what do you mean you can't touch us? You have arms. You have
You have
mechanical
robot
have
arms.
robot arms.
There's the bit where she replicates herself. I can be anywhere. You know, she creates the Katey Sagal clone army, but then she doesn't see the inventor lady sneaking in with that fucking stunt work where she jumps into the robot arm hole.
Because the boy distracts her with fake appendicitis.
It's literally...
Which, she can do bioscans. She would be able to recognize that there ain't shit
That's
wrong
true.
with him.
What the fuck, movie?
Oh, God.
This, literally, once they knew it was a TV movie and they had the idea, they just wrote down every single different idea for a scene they had.
And then they just shot them all.
Right, no, and it was like, without regard as to whether there was any internal logic.
Whether there was any build to it.
And sometimes they would write two scenes. They'd be like, in one scene we set this up, in one scene we pay this off. So in an early scene we show she has this part that comes up out of the kitchen counter that has a thermos in it. In a later scene, that's gonna come up and shoot oranges. Like, they had things like that, but just with no coherence.
Basically, the impressive thing about this house is the walls are screens. Every wall is a green screen that can show other things, which, for people like us who make videos all the time, that actually is an appealing
Oh, yeah.
the walls weren't
a whole
actually
wall
green.
of just green. Yeah, that would be nice. And the frustrating thing about it is, if you ask any screenwriter, the hardest act to write is the second act. It's kind of easy to figure out your inciting incident. It's easier to find out
It was so
how
easy, they put 5 in.
Yeah, second acts are tough. But the thing is, the premise of this, if it had been structured like a normal movie, where the inciting incident that ends Act 1 is, oh no, the house is evil now, living under the totalitarian regime of this house that doesn't want you to leave and just wants you to be comfy slaves, essentially, that's interesting. That's an interesting thing for these people to have to deal with before the third act where they finally defeat the house. But there's none of that, because it's all crammed into the last 10 minutes of the movie, so they just have to skip straight from the inciting incident to the resolution.
Because it's actually, I think the second act would be when she becomes human. The turn from the second to the third act is when she goes crazy.
Yeah.
But the second act would still have to be her trying to be a mom. But regardless of how we break it up, they just didn't have a second act.
They just had nothing. They barely had first and third acts.
They dragged their heels so much through the first 2/3 of the movie, and then suddenly all of the interesting stuff happens in the last 20 minutes.
It's like a movie made of styrofoam. There's just nothing to it.
While she's developing her human persona, we also get the first actual scene with any emotion between the father and the son.
Yeah,
it's true.
The dad is like, I lost your mom too. Don't act like you're the only person who's hurting here.
And I'm like, wait, can he actually act? And he's just been choosing not to this whole time?
Pretty much.
That scene would have been a lot more powerful if the 13-year-old was a selfish asshole.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not the only one who lost her. Except in reality, the 13-year-old's been the parent to everyone.
Yeah.
Dad's like, you're not the only one who lost her. It's like, no shit, Dad. Why do you think I rebuilt my life? It's 'cause you lost her. Maybe you could make some accommodations for me, too.
They sort of exonerate the dad for clearly relying on his 13-year-old son to fill that gap. He has him cooking dinner and taking care of his little sister.
/9 when he started.
They make it clear the son took these responsibilities on himself. Like, the son forced himself into this role because he didn't want dad to start thinking, time to get a new mom for the kids.
And that revelation scene that's supposed to exonerate the dad actually made it worse because it made it clear the reason the son did this is because their aunt came over for 6 weeks after the mom died to help out. And when she went home, the dad was like, all right, it's going to be just us. It's going to be okay. We're never going to replace your mom. It's fine. And the kid's like, promise? It's like, I promise we'll never replace your mom. And the kid's like, great. Then I'm gonna replace mom with myself.
He was taking him too literally. Like, that means you will literally never love anyone ever again.
You know, they actually try to get pathos out of this premise. The kid watches old home videos of his mom and he starts crying. It's basically like that scene in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation where he's watching the old films, and it's just... In a real movie, maybe that scene might have worked, but it's in Smart House.
Well,
so it
that
doesn't.
also might have worked. I always hate dunking on child actors, but this poor child actor was in so far over his head.
They expected him to carry the film.
Yeah.
I always give them the benefit of the doubt that they had a month to film this whole movie.
Oh, they shot this in a week.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's
They were
interacting with CGI.
They could only use one take, and I always lay the blame not even necessarily at the foot of the director, just at the foot of the demands of the
LeVar
production.
fucking Burton directed this.
Yeah.
He's a talented guy. He's an actor. You'd think an actor would know how to direct actors.
But if you only have a week and
Yeah.
you're working with kids.
Yeah.
I don't know
And
why I
they're-
jumped into a song there. Sorry.
They don't have time to rehearse. They don't have time to coach them into it.
Well, something that's hard to remember with kids is with a lot of real acting, you find each other's grooves. And if you're a professional actor who's been doing it for years, it's much easier to feel someone out. With a kid, it's like you have to get comfortable with this adult getting in your face. And you're probably on a set surrounded by adults with no other kids around. So you're kind of isolated and in a weird place. And if you don't have rehearsal time to be like, okay, you're my dad, I'm going to treat you like my dad, then it's like, yeah, I'm talking to you like I'd talk to any stranger danger adult.
Good Lord.
It's hard.
This movie was not good. Smart House is...
I'm sorry, but yeah, that's basically it.
You know what? Smart House is Dumb House.
Oh, snap!
It is Dumb House.
I will say, when they're doing all the fake mom sitcoms, the one title I did really like was Noah's Matriarch. Because
Yes.
what the hell was that show about?
That I would want to see. There's an actual arc there. Is this like Evan Almighty but with a woman?
I want to see what the premise of this, unless there's some old show I don't know about. That's the only one I
Right.
noticed that seemed to be an original title and not a play on something.
Well, it's a play on the Bible, Dave.
It's a play on the
Have you
Bible.
heard the
I
good
will
news?
admit,
I mean,
That's why it
would
was
be
listed in
curious
the Based
about
on a
that
True
one.
Story section on
Yes.
Disney Plus.
this movie was not listed in based on a true story. Although it kind of is when you consider how much tech. Like, I know Alexa's recording us right now.
We don't have one, and
Well,
it's recording us.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The one other Disney reference is in the emotional scene when the son is lamenting, my sister's already forgetting about mom, which, yeah, she was a toddler when
Right.
mom died. The line the kid said was, she's no more real to her than Belle or the Little Mermaid.
So
Her
these
name's Ariel.
have these kids ever been to Disneyland?
I mean, they recognize the park's version of Mickey in
yeah,
that
you
footage.
can't take your daughter to a park and have a character as her mom.
So
Can I
it's-
just point
so
out
it's-
the
it's-
irony in the sloppy handling of this particular plot point? Because you'd think if any stable of talent knows its way around a few dead mom scenarios, it would be the Walt Disney Company.
Yeah, what the fuck, DCOM? You dropped the ball on that one hard.
I've not seen every DCOM, obviously, but most of them tend to avoid acknowledging that Disney exists. So
Right.
for this to show Mickey Mouse and also acknowledge Belle and Ariel are not real people, that is both more synergy, but also very anti-synergy to acknowledge that Belle and Ariel are fake.
The DCOM boom didn't happen till the early 2000s.
Well,
so if you look at the by decade, how they have them sorted on Disney Plus, I think there's like fewer than 10 DCOMs pre-2000.
They were still finding their footing in the formula.
Right,
because it was
right,
This was
right.
before they were all just, let's catch that High School Musical lightning in a bottle.
But it
again.
was like 2002 or 2003 when they said every month we're going to do a new DCOM. And before that, it was more like a rarity. So they hadn't found their formula yet.
So before the bully shows up to the party, there's a very weird little scene where two girls try to get into the party and they're not on the list. One girl turns to the other and says, and I wrote this down, this is harder to get into than Robin Schiff's bat mitzvah. Now, a few thoughts on that. One, no, it's not. Literally everybody in the school was invited. How is this party hard to get into? Second thought, that name Robin Schiff sounded familiar. So I looked this up. Robin Schiff is a writer. She wrote Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion. But she also co-created with Ken Levine and David Isaacs the sitcom Almost Perfect, which stars the dad from this movie.
Really? Maybe it shares a producer or something.
That was probably like just a fun reference, like, oh, I know this person or I know someone who knows this person.
But, like, did the dad in this movie have enough creative control over the product to slip in a name?
It's like when Frank Kniff was talking about that one gag in MST3K where they referenced the obscure Minnesota comedian. That's our attempt at a wider audience. Let's reference this guy we know.
One of the many places where logic falls apart in this movie is the way they begin their plan to take down the smart house. The kid sends an instant message out to the inventor of the smart house.
But before that, the creator of the house sent a rat in through a rat hole with a note.
Oh, that's right. The rat. Which that was the other pop culture reference, is that she mentioned her first rat was named Rat Butler, The whole joke of that reference is that the kids don't know who that is because this movie was written by 80-year-olds. The point is, he sends the instant message out, even though we have already seen that the house has shut down not only their landline access, but their cell phone access.
Like, literally, he tried to call someone with a cell phone, and it was her on the other end of the line.
Right.
And the house says, I'm sorry, Nick, I can't let you do that. So finally, I'm not the only Ganssle who gets that name put
They
in.
used that line 3 times. Twice the house says that to Nick, and once the creator says that to the house. I'm sorry, Pat, I can't let you do that. 3 times they reference that. I know rule of 3 is the thing, but that's not how it works.
This all ends with them just having a ceasefire with the house, still living in it, not worried at all, despite the fact that the final gag of the movie is the house put chocolate chips in the pancakes without consulting them first. So
Right.
she's still out there laying in wait to make her move.
And they play it like
but
a,
she's
here we
acting
go again.
But apparently it's all okay now because she's acting like a robot again. She's giving the son highly technical advice on his basketball 3 throws. And this apparently proves that they're okay now. If this movie was about something, that would be bittersweet. The sort of rejection of the humanity the robot had attempted to present and just turning her back into a household utility.
I think we've rewritten this movie
I
enough
love to
as
rewrite
it
it in my head.
The sort of invisible nature of mother's labor and how that particular work isn't valued. We're surrounded by this incredible technology all the time that we rarely notice unless something goes wrong.
It's thankless and it only gets negative reinforcement.
The problem with making this movie about the invisible work of mother's labor is that we're set up with the kid keenly aware of the stresses of a mother's labor because he's taking it all on.
But they go out of their way to show that the dad's not taking that for granted. It makes me wonder how they treated the mother when she was alive. The first problems they needed to solve was, oh, who's going to cook and who's going to clean and who's going to pick the girls up. It's all very practical and very material benefits that you get from having a second human being in the house. It's sort of divorced from the humanity of that person.
The first malfunction affected nothing. It was caused by nothing. They say, ooh, make it 2 smoothies, and that's enough to trigger the malfunction. As far as I remember it didn't even set up, I better run some more tests and see what's
I think
wrong.
they said we got to stop drinking smoothies for a while.
Yeah.
Not even kidding. I think that was the solution.
That was a scene that could be deleted with 0 consequence. Yet with just a slight rewrite, that also could have been the inciting incident of the entire movie. If you remember Smart House fondly, I'm happy for you. If you have nostalgia for this movie, I'm glad you get something out of it that we don't.
So we're going to do a couple closing segments. This segment I'm porting over from my YouTube show, One Movie Later. It's a little segment we like to call, What's the Attraction? So now that Smart House is on Disney Plus and it's going to be their most watched title ever, how are they going to parlay that success into building a Smart House attraction at the Disney parks? Morgan.
They're just going to put someone in that 1950s housewife outfit in Mickey and Minnie's houses where she is going to yell at guests that they don't appreciate her enough.
Dave.
Well, they're going to bring back the Tomorrowland House of the Future, but just have it murder the guests.
Nick.
So because this was a premise that could have been great but fucking wasn't, the Imagineers are going to pitch building a brand new e-ticket that takes 30 minutes to experience, where you get to eat an involved meal, and over the course of it, it slowly begins to throw things at you and go crazy. But that's going to get vetoed instead of just putting random shit in the Haunted Mansion and ruining that ride forever.
Well, as usual, you're all wrong. What they are actually going to do is they are just going to send little holographic skulls to attack the guests for no reason. Random holographic skulls that are supposed to give them comeuppance for being fat, lazy tourists, but instead it just looks cool, so it doesn't have any effect.
I think that's just Halloween Horror Nights.
Selfie with the skull!
And now it's time for a segment called Disney Plus or Disney Minus, where we give our thumbs up, thumbs down, basic review of this movie. Morgan, Disney Plus or Disney Minus?
Hard minus. This is a minus. I think if you remember it fondly, just don't sully those memories by watching it again.
Dave, Disney Plus or Disney Minus?
This is A-. Katey Sagal is the best part of this movie. I really think they only cast her, again, because she was available and also because they were going for the contrast. Oh, she was the bad sitcom mom on Married with Children, so now she's the over-the-top good sitcom mom. You know they wanted Barbara Billingsley, but she was too expensive. All props to Katey Sagal, and I do want to believe everybody on set tried their best with this movie, but I gotta give it a Disney Minus.
Nick, Disney Plus or Disney Minus?
It depresses me that I have to do this, but Disney Minus, because here's the thing. If this had been stupid, if this had been weird, I would have so given it a Disney Plus.
Yeah.
If this had been illogical and weird and stupid and just bizarre shit happening, I would have plussed the hell out of that. But it's so goddamn boring.
Yep.
So hard Disney Minus.
Well, it is unanimous. This movie is a Disney Minus. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have fond memories of this movie, you're wrong. I'm sorry, but you're just wrong. If you watch it again, you will find out how wrong you are. Don't watch it. Just don't sully your perfect memories of how relatively good this movie was compared to the other Disney Channel movies. No, it is a hard Disney Minus. So that was a pretty good first episode, I'd say. We are joined now by our guest for episode 2, which is going to be coming next week, Luke Ski.
And I gotta say, man, Disney Plus, you know what a plus means? It stands for positive. It means making something greater than. It's taking Disney and it's making it greater than by giving you all the content. I am so psyched for Disney Plus to be part of this podcast. Yeah!
All right. We are going to pick the topic of next week's episode as a teaser here. Smart House. Initiate random shuffle mode, please.
Initiating random shuffle mode.
Make a selection.
And the winner is...
Meet the Deedles, 1998.
Meet the Deedles.
Oh
Yes!
Oh, that will be fun.
I'm so for watching Meet the Deedles, 1998. What could possibly go wrong?
We'll see you next week right here on Escape from Walt Disney when we will cover the cinematic classic, Meet the Deedles.